What is the secret to building wealth? Is it luck? Is it a high income? Or is it a set of learned behaviors that every wealthy person has in common? Welcome back to another video. My name is Brett, and I'm a financial coach. As I'm working on my own journey toward wealth, I want to share some of the habits that I've been personally adopting over the years. Each of these habits comes from observing what truly wealthy people do. By the end, you'll see how these habits have changed my life and how they can help you build your own path to financial freedom. I give you permission to steal every one of these habits for yourself. When I began studying the habits of wealthy people, I noticed one key behavior that they all shared. They consistently spent less than they earned. This foundational habit, known as living below your means, is habit number one. This has become one of the most valuable lessons that I have learned in my life. When I first started my financial journey to becoming wealthy myself, I was not living by this rule at all. I was often under the belief that people that were really well off drove Cadillac Escalades, lived in giant houses, and wore $15,000 custom suits. What I learned, however, is the truth is that most of the people that lived this kind of lifestyle were just living it on the outside, but didn't really have as much money as you would think. They may be doing pretty well for themselves, but the really wealthy people often lived a totally different lifestyle. I was first really made aware of this back in my late 20s when I was selling cars at a new and used car dealership. This dealership had multiple owners that both had very different lifestyles. One owner drove the most expensive cars that we sold, wore expensive custom suits and expensive jewelry that he often bragged about, and always talked about how big his home was and all of the exotic places that he would visit. The other owner drove a newer, more reasonably priced car, wore jeans and a t-shirt every day, and never really talked about any of his belongings with me. Now, one of these owners owned about half the stake that the other owner owned in the dealership. Which one do you think owned the bigger portion of the dealership? If you guessed the one that drove the nice cars and expensive suits, then you would be wrong. I was under this false belief too. I was actually kind of blown away. At the time, I was driving an expensive car, spending money on nice watches, and always spending everything that I had, actually even more than I had. It was then that I came to the realization that it isn't about what items you own that make you wealthy. It's about how much money you have, and that there are really two different types of wealth. One that usually flaunts itself, and one that is so wealthy that it doesn't feel a need to flaunt itself. I wanted that type of wealth. The one that didn't feel the need to be validated. So to build this habit, the first thing that I did was to cut my fixed costs down to as low as I possibly could. And since then, I've kept my costs low so that I've always had extra money to start putting money to work for me as soon as possible. Which brings me to habit number two. Start investing early. I've learned that the earlier in life that you start investing, the more time that your money has to go to work for you, and to take advantage of compound interest. Compound interest over time looks like this. Say that you invested $1,000 one time into an investment that yields a 10% return, and you just let that $1,000 sit for the next 40 years. At the end of those 40 years, you would end up with a total of $45,260, of which over $44,000 of that would be just interest that you've earned. Now, let's look at that same investment. But you put $5,000 into it one time, and you let it sit for 20 years. At the end of those 20 years, your investment would now be worth $33,638, of which that $28,638 would be just interest earned. Not bad, but it's still less than what you had earned with the first example, even though you had put 5 times as much money into it originally. That is the power of compound interest. Now, if you haven't started investing yet, it can be kind of scary in the beginning. The thought of putting your hard-earned money into something that doesn't have an immediate payoff, like spending it on a new guitar or a new car does, it can also be even scarier thinking that your money could at times be worth less than what you put in if the market goes down. This is exactly how I thought before I started investing, so I avoided it for way too long. Looking back, that was such the wrong way to look at things. I learned that for every 10 years that you wait to invest, it takes almost 3 times as much to reach the same goal. Meaning that if I spent all of my money today, I'm just making it harder on myself in the future. I needed to quit thinking about today and start thinking about the long term down the road. So instead of putting off investing for any longer, I just got started with just a small amount first in a Roth IRA retirement account. And I let compound interest do the heavy lifting. This habit is about planning and consistency, and I can already see the difference it's making. I've been investing into retirement plans and various other investments since then, and it's been a real game changer. I've seen my money grow over time, and it's given me hope and confidence in my financial future. Giving your money enough time to grow is essential to building wealth. And when I look back, I wish I had started as soon as I received my first paycheck, working at that first Subway fast food job in my teens. Now, I may not be able to go back and change the past, but I can change my future. And that started with literally just getting started. Now, I could invest my money one time and let it just do its thing. But what I learned from wealthy people is that it's not about investing just once and letting it sit, unless I had some huge amount to start with, which I didn't. So I've had to adopt another habit of the wealthy, and that is to invest consistently over time, no matter what the market is doing. When I first started investing, I was so afraid that I would lose money when there was a downturn. Even though I wasn't investing much, I would quickly panic at the slightest downturn, and this would cause me to stop investing, or even worse, sell any investments that I could, causing me to lose a lot of money. This inconsistency is no way to make your money grow. I've learned that wealthy people view market dips as opportunities, like something that they would normally buy, but now it's on sale. That's why I try and find investments with a long track record of growth, like some simple S&P 500 funds like VOO or SPY. Since I've become debt-free and built up my savings, I've started practicing this dollar cost averaging, investing the same percentage of my income every single month, no matter what. In the beginning, it was tough watching my account fluctuate up and down, but this habit is all about patience and playing the long game. I just stock away money into each investment at the same time every month, whether it be only a little that I have or it be a bigger amount when my income is up. Watching the effects of compound interest take hold has been an awesome feeling. It's like watching a little seed that you planted grow into a big tree over time as you continue to water it, except this tree actually does produce money. It's been cool to watch that first small investment grow to multiple six figures over time by continuing to consistently invest this way. When I'm working with my coaching clients, the topic of investing comes up a lot. And even though I'm not a licensed advisor that tells people exactly which investments to put their money in, I do enjoy educating them on how investments work, how to overcome their fears of investing, and creating a long-term vision for what their money can do for them. I personally don't want to tell people where to invest their money, but I more so love helping people learn, grow their knowledge, and increase their abilities to make the right financial decisions for themselves. This idea of learning brings me to the next habit that the wealthy live by, and that is a commitment to lifelong learning and investing in their own knowledge. In my experience from studying the habits of wealthy people, I have learned that they're always committed to growing their own knowledge. They do this in the same way that they do with their money, consistently and over time. So I wanted to adopt similar habits, but there was only one small issue for me, and you may have the same issue too. For the majority of my life, I wasn't much of a reader. Honestly, I think I read maybe 3 or 4 books in my entire 20s, and I really hated reading when I was in school. But I decided that I needed to change this because I kept hearing from all of these successful individuals how much they read books. They often reminded me that readers are leaders, and I wanted to be just that, a leader in my own life. If I wanted to build this habit, I needed to start somewhere reasonable though, and the idea of being someone like my girlfriend who will read an entire 300-page book in one day felt way too overwhelming to me. So I set a simple goal, 12 books a year, with at least 2 of those books being focused on some kind of financial topic. This seemed like a pretty doable task. If every book that I read is roughly 250 pages and there are 30 days in a month, that meant that I only really needed to read about 8 pages a day. This was totally doable for someone like me who is definitely not a reader. This is a habit that you yourself can easily adopt as well. You can also start listening to podcast episodes and audiobooks on these same subjects regularly, which will also make building this habit even easier. Not only will you be more informed, but you will also feel more confident in making your financial decisions. This is a habit I highly recommend if you want to continue to grow both personally and financially. If you're interested in adopting some of these habits for yourself, then click that thumbs up button on this video and make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on any more of my personal finance habit building videos. The next habit I learned that I needed to adopt required that I get really clear on what it is that I want and what it will take to get there. That habit is to start setting clear financial goals. What I've learned is that most people who are not wealthy still do set goals, but the difference is that they're usually setting goals that are either very vague, like, I want to make more money or I want to be rich, or they're completely unrealistic, like, I want to be a billionaire by the end of this year, when they still haven't even paid off their credit card. I used to be totally guilty of falling into these same bad habits when it came to setting my own goals. I would be very vague with my goals, or I would set these goals that were so unachievable that I wouldn't even come close to hitting them. Without specific goals, it's easy to get distracted and spend impulsively. Wealthy people know exactly what they're aiming for. As I've adopted this habit myself, I've noticed that all of the vague financial goals that I used to have all of a sudden just started kind of coming true because I defined exactly what those goals are and defined the exact steps that it will take to get there. Now I love that I get to help other people create clear financial goals and clear steps on how to get to those goals in my financial coaching business. What's the saying? If you don't know your target, you'll never hit it. So when you're setting your goals, make sure to set clear financial goals and figure out clear steps that you can take to reach those goals. Now, speaking of sayings, there's a saying that the wealthy uses that goes, "Your network is your net worth." I never really actually knew what this meant until later in my life. But this is the next habit of the wealthy that I've learned about, building a strong network. I used to think of this in my 20s as I should only be friends with and hang out with people that are rich and successful. So I never really did this. But as I've gotten older, I've learned that this is only semi-true. Yes, it's true that you are the sum of the 5 people that you hang around the most. But what I've also learned is that it doesn't mean ditching all of your lifelong friends so that you can only hang out with people that have something that you want to have. In fact, I think that this is the wrong way to go about it. The way that I've been adopting this exact habit is that I'm making a point to build a strong network of like-minded people who help me grow and challenge me to think bigger. You see, wealthy individuals rely on a powerful network to help them find opportunities and are always actively seeking connections that add value, share insights, and help them grow. The right relationships can open doors and create new possibilities, but they can also help push you out of your comfort zone and be cheerleaders for you as you progress in life. A successful friend of mine taught me a really important lesson that I will never forget. If you are the smartest or most skilled person in the room, then you're doing it wrong. I've observed how she put this into action in her own life and how it's helped her increase her wealth drastically over the years. She finds opportunities to put herself in rooms where she can constantly learn from others. What a total game changer. For me, while I still maintain my friendships with people that may not be as financially successful as I'd like to be, I also find opportunities to join into rooms and conversations with others that are as financially successful as I'd like to be, and I build connections with these individuals, whether it be on a totally professional or a more personal level. Building your network doesn't mean ditching out on your friends, but it does mean expanding your resources. If you want to build your net worth, you need to build your network to reflect that. Finally, one of the habits that I've been intentional about building for the last 10 years is avoiding unnecessary debt. Back in 2013, when I started this financial journey that I'm on, I was bogged down by over $51,000 in debt. Student loans, credit cards, car payments, medical debt, pretty much all of the stuff. Honestly, I felt trapped. I learned that wealthy people don't buy things that they can't afford. So when I learned this, I created an aggressive debt payoff plan that helped me wipe out all of that debt in under 2 years. Since then, I've been extremely opposed to adding any unnecessary debt in my life. That means that I would only buy items that I could pay for outright. I haven't taken on any debt with the exception of a house since I became debt-free. I've learned from wealthy people that if I want to build wealth myself, then this is something that is extremely important. Now, you may be thinking, yeah, but I've heard about using debt to get rich. And yes, sometimes they will use debt to leverage themselves in investments. And this can work out, but only if you're actually financially prepared for any circumstances that this may bring, both positive and negative. When it comes to their own personal debt, they use credit cards responsibly, they don't take on excessive car loans, they don't buy houses out of their price range, and they don't spend money that they don't have to try to impress people that they don't know or don't even like. I've adopted the same habit of not only remaining debt-free, but also not buying things I don't need or want to try to impress others. This is an important lesson that I teach all of my coaching clients as we create their debt payoff plan. That it's not only about paying off the debt, it's about keeping off the debt and never feeling the need to impress others with what they own. It's actually one of my favorite topics that I go over with my clients. These are the 7 habits that I've adopted on the road to create my own wealth, and I hope that sharing them with you will inspire you to do the same. Now, I'd like to learn from you. Are there any habits that you've adopted that you would add to this list? Please let me know down below in the comments. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that wealth doesn't come overnight. It's a journey of small, intentional decisions that lead to big results over time. Now, if you would like to maximize these habits that I just spoke about, I have 6 more money habits that you will need to adopt as well. And you can find that in the video that I've linked here on the screen. Go check out that video, and I'll see you there.